Awakening in a new world, Marcus awoke with a start, the blaring alarms tearing him from a million-year cryosleep. Emergency lights flashed blood red across his frost-covered face. His muscles screamed in protest as he clawed his way out of the stasis pod, the icy air searing his lungs. He slammed to the deck, his brain scrambling to make sense of the chaos around him. Staggering down the corridors of the sleeper ship Odyssey, Marcus gripped the bulkheads, fighting the rising panic in his chest. In the control room, a scene of utter horror greeted him. The shattered remains of his 3 crewmates' stasis pods lay strewn across the deck, their partially reanimated corpses still twitching. "What the?" Marcus croaked, his throat raw from disuse. The last time log blinked on the monitor. The ship had been adrift for over 1,000,000 years, far longer than their planned century-long journey to Proxima Centauri b. The automated repair systems had kept the Odyssey intact, but something had gone catastrophically wrong with the revival process. Suddenly, the radiation alarms blared. The power core was leaking, threatening to flood the ship with lethal radiation. Hands shaking, Marcus frantically worked the controls, his mind racing to recall training on systems centuries more advanced than anything from his own time. He had to contain the damage and stabilize life support, or he'd be dead in minutes. A proximity alert sounded on the view screen. A massive alien vessel loomed, all dark angles and dripping with unrecognizable weapons. It eclipsed the Odyssey as it pulled the tiny human ship into its hangar bay with a powerful tractor beam. Marcus tried hailing them, but got no response. The airlock exploded inward, and reptilian humanoids in elaborate armor stormed the bridge. To Marcus's shock, the alien spoke perfect English. "I am Prior, First Sword of the Nijari Star Dominion," the alien announced. "This sector is restricted. Your ship will be seized, and you will be interned on Imperialis Prime until we determine your fate." Marcus tried to protest, but the aliens leveled their weapons at him. Prior's eyes narrowed. "You cannot comprehend the power you face, primitive. Do not test my patience." With no other choice, Marcus raised his hands in surrender, legs shaking. He was utterly alone, the last human at the mercy of hostile aliens in a universe that had moved on without humanity. He would have to use every ounce of wit and tenacity to survive this nightmare. The prisoner. Marcus slumped against the cold metal wall of his cell, the weight of 1,000,000 years pressing down on his shoulders. The stark white lights of the Ministry of Science glared overhead, casting harsh shadows across his haggard face. He had lost track of how long he had been here, subjected to an endless barrage of tests and examinations by the Nijari scientists. They poked and prodded at him, drawing blood, scanning his brain, testing his reflexes. They spoke to him only to issue commands, their reptilian faces impassive and cold. Marcus felt like a lab rat, a curiosity to be studied and dissected. But there was one Nijari who treated him differently. Cryo, a junior researcher, had taken an interest in Marcus beyond the purely scientific. He would linger after the tests, asking Marcus questions about Earth, about his life before the Odyssey. And one day, he slipped Marcus a small device, pressing it into his hand with a furtive glance at the cameras. "This is a quantum computer," Cryo whispered. "It has access to the Infomatrix, our database of galactic knowledge. I think you should know the truth about what happened to your world." In the long hours between tests, Marcus pored over the information, his heart sinking with each new revelation. Earth, his home, had been destroyed 1,000,000 years ago, struck by a rogue asteroid, and ravaged by solar flares. Humanity was believed to be extinct, a footnote in galactic history. In the centuries that followed, the Nijari Star Dominion had risen to power, conquering and subjugating hundreds of worlds. The Pan-Galactic Union, the alliance Earth had been poised to join, had been crushed beneath the Nijari war machine. Its member species were now slaves, their planets stripped of resources to fuel the Dominion's relentless expansion. Marcus wept for the future that had been lost, for the billions of lives snuffed out by Nijari aggression. He was the last of his kind, a relic of a forgotten age, and he had awoken to a universe where hope seemed lost. Kirix came to him again, his eyes haunted. "Marcus, I have to tell you something. Under our laws, you have no rights. The Science Ministry has petitioned the Emperor to have you dissected to study how your species survived so long in stasis. They think it could hold the key to extending Nijari lifespans." Marcus recoiled in horror, his stomach turning at the thought. "Kirix, you can't let them do that. Please, you have to help me." The young researcher nodded, his fists tight. "What my people are doing is wrong. The conquests, the enslavement, the genocide. I can't be a part of it anymore." He leaned closer, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm going to get you out of here, Marcus, and I need your help. There's a rebellion brewing against the Dominion, a free galactic alliance. With your testimony about Earth, about what was lost, we might be able to convince them to aid our cause. But we have to get you off Imperialist Prime first." Marcus clasped Kirix's hand, feeling a flicker of hope amidst the despair. "I'm with you," he said. "Whatever it takes, let's make them pay for what they've done." The escape. The alarms shrieked through the Ministry of Science's sterile corridors as Marcus and Kirix raced towards freedom. Marcus clutched the quantum computing device like a lifeline, his heart pounding in his chest. Kirix moved with the grace of a predator, his eyes darting back and forth, alert for any sign of pursuit. "This way," Kirix hissed, pulling Marcus into a maintenance shaft. They crawled through the cramped space, the metal walls pressing in on them from all sides. Behind them, the sounds of booted feet and snarling hellhounds echoed through the facility. They emerged into the seething underlevels of the capital megacity, a labyrinth of twisting alleys and flickering neon. Towering spires of gleaming metal and glass loomed overhead, blocking out the stars. Kirix led the way, his hand never straying far from the pulse pistol at his hip. A whirring sound filled the air, and Marcus looked up to see a swarm of hunter-killer drones descending from the sky. Kirix cursed, shoving Marcus into a narrow alley as the drones opened fire, their plasma bolts sizzling through the air. They ran, their lungs burning, as the sounds of pursuit grew closer. Genetically engineered hellhounds, all fangs and rippling muscle, bounded after them, their howls echoing off the metal walls. Marcus stumbled, his legs threatening to give out, but Kirix hauled him to his feet, urging him onward. At last, they reached the spaceport, a sprawling complex of landing pads and cargo bays. Kirix led Marcus to a battered freighter, its hull scarred and pitted from years of hard use. "This ship is bound for the Pegasus sector," Kirix explained, his voice tight with tension. "We can stow away in the cargo hold and hope they don't notice us." A voice boomed, "Halt!" Marcus spun around to see Pryor emerging from the shadows, flanked by a squad of heavily armed Nijari Commandos. The first sword's eyes blazed with fury as he leveled his pulse rifle at Marcus. "Surrender, abomination," Pryor spat. "You have nowhere to run." Kirix stepped forward, his mind focusing. "He is not an abomination," he said, his voice ringing with conviction. "He is a sentient being with the same rights as any of us." Pryor's lip curled in a sneer. "You are a traitor to your race, Kirix. You will die with this primitive scum." Kirix met Marcus's eyes, a silent apology in his gaze. Then, with a roar of defiance, he charged at the Nijari lines, a thermal grenade clutched in his fist. The Commandos opened fire, their plasma bolts ripping through Kirix's body, but he kept coming, his eyes blazing with fierce determination. The grenade detonated, the explosion sending Nijari bodies flying. In the chaos, Marcus ran, his heart shattering as he left Kirix's broken body behind. He leaped into the freighter's cargo hold, slamming the hatch shut just as the ship's engines roared to life. As the freighter blasted off from Imperialist Prime, Marcus huddled in the darkness, the quantum computing device clutched to his chest. Tears streamed down his face as he thought of Kirix, of the sacrifice he had made to ensure Marcus's escape. "I won't let you down," Marcus whispered into the shadows. I'll find the Free Galactic Alliance. I'll make the Nijari pay for what they've done. The search for allies. The freighter shuddered as it entered hyperspace, the stars stretching into long lines of light. Marcus lay in the darkness of the cargo hold, his mind racing with thoughts of the future. He was alone now, the last human in a universe that had moved on without humanity. But he had a mission, a purpose. He would find the Free Galactic Alliance and join their fight against the Nijari Dominion. Days passed in a blur of hyperspace travel and fitful sleep. Marcus subsisted on emergency rations and drank recycled water from the ship's life support system. The quantum computing device became his constant companion, its interface a window into a galaxy of knowledge. He learned about the Free Galactic Alliance, a coalition of species united in their resistance against the Nijari. They were scattered and outnumbered, but they fought with a fierce determination born of desperation. Their leader, a Zorani named Zarak Kilon, was a brilliant strategist and a charismatic orator. Under his leadership, the Alliance had scored several victories against the Dominion, but they were still on the brink of defeat. Marcus knew he had to find them, to offer his knowledge and his skills to their cause. He studied the Alliance's movements, tracing their operations through the infometrics. It was a dangerous game, hacking into Nijari communications and sifting through layers of encryption, but Marcus was relentless. At last, he found a lead. A transmission from a hidden base on the planet Zephyrus, a lush world on the fringes of Nijari space. The Alliance had established a stronghold there, using the dense jungles and rugged mountains to hide from the Dominion's patrols. Marcus knew it was his best chance. He plotted a course for Zephyrus, using the freighter's navigation systems to chart a path through the treacherous hyperspace lanes. As he approached the planet, he activated the ship's stealth systems, praying they would be enough to avoid detection. The freighter descended through the atmosphere, its hull shuddering as it breached the planet's thick cloud cover. Marcus guided the ship towards a remote valley, the dense foliage providing cover from prying eyes. He set the freighter down in a clearing, the landing gear sinking into the soft earth. Stepping out into the humid air, Marcus took a deep breath, savoring the scent of life all around him. It was a stark contrast to the sterile environment of the Odyssey and the cold metal halls of Imperialis Prime. He felt a flicker of hope, a sense of possibility. He made his way through the jungle, following the coordinates he had gleaned from the transmission. The terrain was rugged, the undergrowth thick with vines and thorny bushes. But Marcus pressed on, driven by a determination that burned in his chest. At last, he reached the hidden base, a camouflaged structure nestled in the shadow of a towering cliff. He approached cautiously, his heart pounding in his chest. As he drew closer, a group of armed guards emerged from the shadows, their weapons trained on him. "Who are you?" one of them demanded, a tall Zorani with a scar running down his face. "My name is Marcus," he said, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "I'm a survivor from the Odyssey. I have information that could help the Alliance." The guards exchanged wary glances, then lowered their weapons. "Follow us," the Zorani said, his voice gruff. "But know that if you try anything, we won't hesitate to kill you." Marcus nodded, his heart pounding. He followed the guards into the base, his mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. He was on the brink of something big, something that could change the fate of the galaxy, and he was ready to face whatever challenges came his way. Joining the Alliance, the hidden base bustled with activity, a hive of resistance fighters from countless species. Marcus was led through winding corridors, past workshops filled with technicians and strategists, to a central chamber where Zarak Kilon awaited him. Zarak was an imposing figure, his scales shimmering with iridescent colors. His eyes gleamed with intelligence and determination. "Marcus, is it?" he said, his voice a deep rumble. "I've heard about you. The last human, awakened from Cryo sleep after 1,000,000 years. You must have quite the story to tell." Marcus nodded, his throat dry. "I do, and I have information that could help you in your fight against the Nijari." Zarek's eyes narrowed with interest. Go on. Marcus took a deep breath and began to recount everything he had learned from the quantum computer. He told Zarek about the fate of Earth, the rise of the Nijari Dominion, and the existence of the Free Galactic Alliance. He explained how Kyrix had helped him escape and how he had made his way to Zephyros. Zarek listened intently, his expression unreadable. When Marcus finished, the Zorani leader leaned back in his chair, his eyes fixed on Marcus. Your story is incredible, he said finally, and if what you say is true, then you could be a valuable asset to the Alliance. I want to help, Marcus said earnestly. I may be the last human, but I won't let my people's legacy end in oblivion. I want to fight for a future where the Nijari no longer hold the galaxy in their grip. Zarek nodded slowly. Very well, Marcus. Welcome to the Free Galactic Alliance. We'll need all the help we can get. Over the following weeks, Marcus integrated into the Alliance's operations. He trained with their soldiers, learning advanced combat techniques and familiarizing himself with their technology. He shared his knowledge of human history and tactics, offering insights that had been lost to the ages. But even as he worked to aid the Alliance, the specter of Kyrix's sacrifice haunted him. He could still see the young researcher's face, feel the weight of his friend's last words. He vowed to honor Kyrix's memory by fighting with all his might. One night, as Marcus pored over strategic maps with Zorak, an urgent transmission came through. A Nijari patrol had discovered the base's location, and an attack was imminent. The Alliance scrambled to prepare their defenses, but the odds were grim. The Nijari forces were vast and well-equipped, while the Alliance was outnumbered and outgunned. As the battle began, Marcus fought alongside his new comrades, his heart pounding with adrenaline. Plasma bolts and laser fire filled the air, the sounds of battle echoing through the jungle. He moved with a precision born of desperation, every shot and strike a testament to his resolve. Despite their efforts, the Nijari forces pushed closer, their superior numbers overwhelming the defenders. Marcus knew they couldn't hold out much longer. But then, amidst the chaos, an idea struck him. He remembered a tactic from human history, a last-ditch effort used by a desperate army to turn the tide of battle. He rushed to Zorak, who was coordinating the defense from a command post. I have an idea, Marcus said urgently. We need to lure the Nijari into a trap, then hit them with everything we've got. Zarek's eyes widened as Marcus explained the plan. It was risky, but they had no other options. With a nod, Zarek gave the order, and the Alliance forces began to fall back, drawing the Nijari into the heart of the base. As the enemy advanced, Marcus and a small team set up an ambush in a narrow canyon. They rigged explosives and set up heavy weaponry, ready to spring the trap. When the Nijari forces entered the canyon, the explosives detonated, sending shockwaves through the ground. The walls of the canyon collapsed, trapping the enemy in a deadly crossfire. The Alliance forces poured their firepower into the trapped Nijari, decimating their ranks. The tide of battle shifted, and the remaining enemy soldiers fled in disarray. The base was saved, but at a heavy cost. Many of Marcus's new comrades had fallen, their lives sacrificed for the cause of freedom. As the smoke cleared, Marcus stood amidst the wreckage, his heart heavy with both sorrow and determination. He had proven himself, but the war was far from over. The fight against the Nijari Dominion would be long and arduous, but he was ready to face it head-on. He looked up at the stars, his mind filled with thoughts of Earth and the future he fought for. He was the last human, but he carried with him the hopes and dreams of his entire species, and he would not rest until the Nijari were defeated and the galaxy was free once more. The heart of the rebellion. The battle had left the Alliance base in ruins, but the spirit of its defenders remained unbroken. They set to work rebuilding, their resolve stronger than ever. Marcus threw himself into the effort, determined to honor the memory of those who had fallen. Zarek called a meeting of the Alliance's leaders to discuss their next steps. They gathered in a makeshift command center, the air thick with tension. "The Nijari will not rest until we are crushed," Zarek said, his voice grim. "We need to strike back, to show them that we will not be defeated." Marcus listened intently as the leaders debated strategies. They spoke of hit-and-run tactics, sabotage missions, and clandestine operations. But Marcus had a different idea. He remembered the ancient human tactic of targeting the enemy's heart, the source of their power. "We need to go after the Emperor," Marcus said, his voice cutting through the din. "If we can take him out, it will throw the Nijari Dominion into chaos." The room fell silent, the leaders staring at Marcus in shock. "It's a suicide mission," one of them said, shaking his head. "The Emperor is heavily guarded, and his palace is a fortress." "I know," Marcus replied, his gaze unwavering. "But it's our best chance. We can't keep fighting defensively. We need to take the fight to them." Zarek nodded slowly, his eyes filled with a mixture of admiration and concern. "It's a bold plan, Marcus. But it might be our only hope. We need volunteers for this mission, those willing to risk everything for the cause." Marcus stepped forward, his heart pounding. "I'll go. And I know others will too. We've come this far. We can't turn back now." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. One by one, the leaders pledged their support, their faces set with determination. The plan was set in motion, and preparations began immediately. The mission team consisted of Marcus, Zarek, and a select group of elite soldiers and operatives. They trained relentlessly, honing their skills and preparing for the most dangerous mission of their lives. They studied the layout of the Emperor's palace, memorizing every corridor and chamber. As the day of the mission approached, Marcus felt a mixture of excitement and dread. He knew the risks, but he also knew what was at stake. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and he would not let fear hold him back. The team infiltrated the Nijari homeworld under the cover of darkness, using stolen codes and stealth technology to bypass the defenses. They moved through the palace with precision, neutralizing guards and avoiding detection. At last, they reached the Emperor's chamber, a grand hall filled with opulence and power. The Emperor himself stood at the far end, his eyes cold and calculating. "So the rebels have come to die," he sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. Marcus stepped forward, his ion blade glowing with energy. "We're here to end your tyranny," he said, his voice steady. "The galaxy will be free." The Emperor laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Foolish human, you cannot comprehend the power you face." With a wave of his hand, the Emperor unleashed a torrent of energy, the air crackling with malevolent force. The team scattered, dodging the onslaught and returning fire. The chamber erupted into chaos, the sounds of battle echoing off the walls. Marcus fought with everything he had, his mind and body pushed to their limits. He could feel the weight of the mission, the hopes of the entire alliance resting on his shoulders. But he also felt a surge of determination, a fierce resolve that burned within him. As the battle raged, Marcus saw an opening. The Emperor was momentarily distracted, his focus split between multiple targets. With a burst of speed, Marcus closed the distance, his ion blade slicing through the air. The Emperor turned too late, his eyes widening in shock as the blade pierced his chest. He staggered, his power faltering, and with a final furious cry, he collapsed to the ground. The room fell silent, the energy dissipating into the air. Marcus stood over the fallen Emperor, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The mission had succeeded, but at a great cost. Several of his comrades lay injured or worse, their sacrifices etched into his memory. Zarek approached, his eyes filled with a mix of sorrow and pride. "We did it," he said quietly. "The Emperor is dead. The Nijari Dominion will crumble." Marcus nodded, his heart heavy. "It's not over yet. We need to secure the palace, to ensure the Dominion can't regroup." The team set to work, securing the palace, and broadcasting the news of the Emperor's death to the galaxy. The Nijari forces, leaderless and disorganized, began to falter. The Free Galactic Alliance seized the opportunity, launching coordinated attacks on key Dominion strongholds. As the days passed, the tide of the war shifted. The Dominion's grip weakened, their empire fracturing under the pressure. The Alliance pressed their advantage, pushing the Nijari back and reclaiming lost worlds. Marcus fought in every battle, his resolve unshakable. He thought of Earth, of Kyrix, and of the future he fought for. He knew the road ahead would be long and difficult, but he also knew that hope was within reach. The galaxy would be free, and he would see it through to the end. A new dawn. Months passed, and the Free Galactic Alliance continued to gain ground. The Nijari Dominion, once an unassailable power, was now a fractured shadow of its former self. World after world threw off the yoke of oppression, joining the Alliance in a unified stand for freedom. Marcus became a symbol of hope, the last human leading the charge against tyranny. His story spread across the galaxy, inspiring countless beings to rise up and fight for a better future. But even as the Alliance celebrated their victories, Marcus remained focused on the ultimate goal, the complete defeat of the Nijari Dominion. One day, as Marcus and his team planned their next move, a transmission came through from an unexpected source. It was Kyrix. His image flickered on the holographic display, his eyes filled with urgency. "Marcus," Kyrix said, his voice tinged with desperation. "I've discovered something. The Nijari have a hidden weapon, a doomsday device capable of destroying entire star systems. We have to stop them." Marcus's heart pounded. "Where is it?" "On the planet Nethera, deep within their territory," Kyrix replied. "It's heavily guarded, but if we can destroy it, we can ensure the Nijari can't use it as a last-ditch effort." Zerak nodded, his expression grim. "We can't let them use that weapon. We'll assemble a strike team and head to Nethera immediately." The mission was set, and preparations began. Marcus and his team, along with Kyrix, who had risked everything to bring them this information, embarked on the perilous journey to Nethera. They knew the risks, but they also knew what was at stake. The approach to Nethera was fraught with danger. The planet was surrounded by a fleet of Nijari warships, and the surface was a fortress of defenses. The team used every trick they knew, employing stealth and subterfuge to slip through the enemy lines. As they descended towards the planet's surface, the tension was palpable. The doomsday device was housed in a massive underground complex, its power source a volatile fusion reactor. The team moved with precision, neutralizing guards and bypassing security systems. They reached the core of the complex, a vast chamber filled with machinery and glowing with ominous energy. The doomsday device stood at the center, a towering structure of metal and energy conduits. "We need to plant charges on the reactor," Kyrix said, his voice steady despite the danger. "That should cause a chain reaction and destroy the device." The team split up, each member taking a different route to plant the explosives. Marcus worked quickly, his heart racing as he set the charges. He thought of Earth, of Kyrix's sacrifice, and of the future they fought for. Suddenly, alarms blared, and the chamber was flooded with Nijari soldiers. The team fought desperately, their weapons blazing as they defended the charges. Marcus saw Kyrix engaged in a fierce battle with a Nijari commander, their movements a blur of speed and precision. With a final, desperate effort, Marcus activated the charges and called for the team to fall back. They raced through the complex, the sounds of explosions and collapsing structures echoing behind them. They emerged onto the surface just as the complex erupted in a cataclysmic explosion. The ground shook, and a massive fireball rose into the sky. The doomsday device was destroyed, and the threat to the galaxy was eliminated. As they regrouped, Marcus looked at his comrades, his heart swelling with pride. They had done it. They had stopped the Nijari's final weapon and ensured the safety of countless star systems. But the victory was bittersweet. Kyrix had fallen in the battle, his life sacrificed to ensure the mission's success. Marcus knelt beside his friend's body, tears streaming down his face. "I'll never forget you, Kyrix," he whispered. "You gave everything for this, for the future." The team returned to the Alliance, their mission a resounding success. The news of the Doomsday device's destruction spread like wildfire, further demoralizing the already faltering Nijari forces. The final push began, and the Alliance launched a coordinated assault on the last remaining Nijari strongholds. The battles were fierce, but the Alliance's determination was unwavering. They fought with a ferocity born of hope, of the belief that a new dawn was within reach. Marcus led the charge, his heart filled with a burning resolve. At last, the Nijari dominion fell. The Emperor's palace, once a symbol of unassailable power, lay in ruins. The Alliance stood victorious, the galaxy free from the grip of tyranny. As the celebrations began, Marcus stood amidst the ruins, his thoughts on the future. The war was over, but the work was just beginning. They had a galaxy to rebuild, a future to forge. He looked up at the stars, a sense of peace washing over him. He was the last human, but he was not alone. He had found a new family, a new purpose, and he would carry the legacy of humanity into the future, a beacon of hope in the darkness. The galaxy was free, and a new dawn had begun.